Happy Friday, everybody. I hope you had a great week. Today is November 11, 2022, and this is your Friday planning update. Today I want to jump right in and not talk about the election. Maybe it'll be the only 5 to 7 minutes this week you'll get to stay away from that topic. I'm also going to hold all talk about the big move in the markets yesterday across so many different areas until Monday's market update, so come back for that. I would like to first recognize and acknowledge this day. In 1918, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the guns of what was known as the Great World War, known as World War I, fell silent in Europe. This was known as Armistice Day originally, now it's known as Veterans Day. I'd like to take this moment to thank all of those who have served in the armed services. We honor those who do now and have in the past risked their lives and in some cases lost their lives defending our country and the freedoms we so often take for granted. On this special day, I want to share a few year-end planning thoughts. Let's revisit a few old favorites. First, student loan debt relief. News as late as yesterday about a Texas court blocking the payments. If you're checking your mailbox every day, it may be more than just an issue with the USPS. This time, as I mentioned, the courts are holding up these payments. There are 6 states that have filed suit against the federal government trying to stop this program. The details are more than we need to discuss here, but suffice it to say the payments are delayed until the courts rule. There's no word yet on what to do if that delay pushes us past the January 1st deadline, and that's when payments are due again for the first time in a few years. Stay tuned, more to come on this. The rumor is that Plan B will be more extensions of the repayments. While we're talking about this debt relief, if you do get your check soon, please make sure to find out if your state is one of the few that has decided to tax this debt forgiveness as income. This is standard for normal debt forgiveness, but it may come as a surprise to many who get this relief. The government gives and the government takes away. The last thing for today on this, nearly 42 million people with student loans took advantage of the pause in payments for the loans, but that left 9 million people who kept paying the loans even as the payments were not due and interest was not accruing. If you're one of those people, you're entitled to a refund, and you guessed it, you must request that through your loan servicer. It's money that is due to you, so it may be worth making that call. As always, I don't provide personal tax advice, so please check with your tax advisor on this and all items about that. Let's also talk for a moment about the month of November. As many of you know, some refer to it as Movember. It's the annual event where men grow out their mustaches to raise awareness for men's health problems such as prostate cancer. November is also Long-Term Care Insurance Awareness Month. I've addressed it here before and will once again mention that a recent estimate states that 60% of us will need some type of long-term assistance in one form or another. I'll continue to bring you items from for our list to go over in our year-end meetings, and this is another one. So please, let's talk about your need for long-term care insurance. It's not for everyone, and it is not a one-size-fits-all. Like nearly everything I mention in these videos, this is another personal decision. I look forward to discussing with you your possible needs and the options available. One more list for the year-end checking. That is 3 IRA mistakes that we can avoid making. I'm sure there are more, but here are 3. Just to reiterate, please work with your tax advisors with questions on this, as I do not give personal tax advice. First, and this one you've heard before, please set up your beneficiaries correctly. As Ferris Bueller said in the famous movie from 1986, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. Well, births, deaths, marriages, and divorce, to name a few. These things are stressful, to say the least, and the last thing you think about at that time is beneficiaries on the IRA, 401k, and even insurance. But this can cause major issues, so please revisit those also. Next, IRA accounts do allow for both pre-tax as well as after-tax contributions. This often determines the tax benefits and deductibility of your contribution as well as your withdrawal. In your investment lifetime, you may make both kinds. If you do, it's up to you to account for which is which and then which distributions are taxable and which are not. This is a record-keeping necessity, so please keep that in mind. Finally, for this list, this one is rare, but if you are calculating your own RMD, your required minimum distribution, make sure you're using the correct RMD table. It sounds like it can't happen, but like most of the stories I tell, this one can and does happen. The last thing I want to do is share a short excerpt from a New York Times book review of the book called The Europeans by Orlando Figes. The review published in October of 2019 reads the following. Imagine a society where, within the space of a single generation, human innovation all but collapses the most formidable geographic distances, allowing individuals and information to travel the globe with unprecedented swiftness and ease, where new platforms radically transform the way in which news, music, books, and art are created and consumed, where media-driven celebrity trumps older modes of authority and forms new elites, endowing famous artists and performers with peerless cachet, where audiences converge in a worldwide culture of sharing, and diversity and connectedness join equality and freedom as the shibboleths of Western liberalism, where at the same time legislation struggles to keep pace with technological change, capitalism and consumerism destroy even as they enrich, and nationalism, racism, and xenophobia poison the public discourse, threatening disaster. In keeping with the theme from last week, if you think we are in uncharted territory, this book, The Europeans, was not about 2022. It was about the mid-19th century in Europe. As we can see, it is actually eerie to hear this, and as much as this shows that as much as things change, they do come back, that's really what we're looking at. So as we've discussed, and certainly this week has shown us, we never know what the next day will bring in the markets. I'm convinced that the playbook that all the experts have been working off for the past few weeks, the one with the picture of Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh on the cover, the opening chapters entitled Woe Is Me, these experts yesterday replaced that book with a Kool and the Gang song, Celebrate Good Times. All as one data point showed the signs of what just may be peak inflation. I hope they're correct, but what we've seen in week in and week out is surprise. The only way to keep on the right page of the book is to have the right book. That book is about your long-term goals. Please, as we meet in the coming weeks, let's revisit those goals, not switch them day in and day out based on the way the wind blows. They will change over time, but not on the backs of one eco data point. Let's stay focused on our long-term goals, make moves towards that end. I look forward to continuing with you on this journey. Thanks again to all the veterans. You have our gratitude forever. Come back Monday for a fact-filled Monday market update. We may even have a better idea of who won the elections by then. Oh, sorry, I almost made it through the whole video without referencing the elections. See you Monday. Have a great weekend.